Okay, welcome to the show. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for this interview. I have been waiting, 3, 4, 5 weeks. I don't know how long it's been, but it has been so hard to get on your calendar. Dr. Roseann Capana Hodge, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. I
Did
am
I
a
say
busy girl.
did I say that right? I'm
No,
Italian. I should have said, did I say Capana right?
it's Capana Hodge, but that's okay.
Capana.
Some people, Campania is a region in Italy.
Well, there you go. I knew that.
That you knew that. You're so smart, Noah.
Well, first of all, before we even get started, I just want to say how thrilled I am to have an Italian on 100% Italian on the show with me today.
The Italian sisterhood, my friend, like no other.
Right. We have to stick together, and everyone wishes they were Italian, but I'm sorry. Today, it is only Dr. Roseann and I that are Italian. So in introducing you, there's so many wonderful things to say about you, but basically, you've done everything. We're gonna talk about that, but you are really kind of revered as an pediatric mental health expert, correct?
That is right.
Great. And I would also say that the reason that I became really excited about talking to you and how you came full circle into my universe is a whole nother story, which we'll talk about, but is that you are really an expert within the neurofeedback, biofeedback, kind of integrative wellness space, correct?
Yeah, I've been doing, I've never not done integrative mental health, and I've been working with children and families for almost 29 years.
Wow. So but this whole biofeedback thing and neurofeedback is so exciting. We're going to talk about the difference between the two in a second. But just to kind of toot your horn for you, because I know you wouldn't do it for yourself. You've been on CBS, NBC, Fox News, USA Today, in the New York Times. What did Forbes say about you?
Uh, they have humbled me by calling me the thought leader in children's mental health.
I mean, can anybody listening right now believe that I have scored Dr. Roseann on this podcast and how excited I am?
You're just exciting because I know what super sod is and col and all these beautiful Italian.
Oh my gosh. I totally do. How about pizzelles? Did you eat those as a kid?
First, we eat them. We made them.
Yeah, we did too. I know. Oh my gosh. I want one of those right now. I'm sorry if you don't know what a pizzelle is out there, but
Google it.
Look it up. So you have written 4 books, correct?
Yeah. So I wrote 4 books in what we're calling my Corona creative period.
Oh, wow. So you have more than 4 books. I guess I didn't know that.
So I'm a co-author with my sisters at an organization called Epidemic Answers, and we wrote a book called Brain Under Attack, and it's about PANS and PANDAS, a disorder where it's a sudden onset due to an infectious agent, and there's a sudden onset of intense psychiatric symptoms.
Oh, wow. Okay, we're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah.
Is that tied to the Lyme disease?
It is absolutely tied to Lyme disease. So there are multiple infectious sources, including strep, Lyme disease, Epstein-Barr, and a host of other things.
Yeah, all of that.
We're also finding COVID is a source too.
Oh, wow.
So,
So you've written how many total books?
So this I co-authored Brain Under Attack, but I wrote 4 books on my own. And the first book that will come out October 27th is for therapists, and it's called the Teletherapy Toolkit, and it's the therapist handbook for treating children and teens, and it's a book for therapists who've been, for the first time, probably 1 million therapists have been thrown into teletherapy.
Yes.
And they're struggling. They're feeling like they did when they got out of grad school, meaning we didn't know what we were doing. And we had graduate degrees. And this is a soup to nuts, break it down, teach you how to be a teletherapy rock star. And really, what is this all about? It's about doing awesome therapy, just like you did in person, but doing it in teletherapy and really showing kids the way to get better, whatever mental health challenge they have.
Wow.
And it's sharing those 30 years of wisdom that I've had, and I've been a college professor. I have a whole team that I supervise, and that's why I wrote this book 433 pages in 31 days because
31 days?
31 days.
Oh my gosh. And
Um,
it's the very first book ever written for therapists, correct? Like
the
this.
first book ever about teletherapy activities ever. So this is going to be the handbook.
I'm
Everything.
gonna predict that you're gonna be on my favorite morning show.
I'm going to be on your
The
favorite.
Today Show. The Today Show. I'm gonna predict that. I don't know if it's happening, but I'm gonna predict it to
It's
happen.
going to happen.
I mean, this is exciting. I mean, I know there's all those other shows out there, but that's my favorite one.
Dawn, that's what I want to be on.
First of all, I love the way you say my name. Say it again.
Dawn.
Oh my gosh, it's so great. So in case you're listening right now and you're wondering, where is Dr. Roseann from, or Dr. Ro from? She's from Connecticut, correct? Is that where you're from?
Connecticut, but a suburb of New York City.
Okay. And you've lived there your whole life?
Yeah, minus going here and there and living at other places. But yeah, I've lived here my whole life. And my Italian parents who still make their own, cured meat products and wine.
Oh, they make their own wine too. Wow.
Oh yeah, we have a temperature controlled wine, center and the whole thing. It's pretty awesome.
We might have to do a side podcast on that, on the Italian culture and heritage, correct?
It's amazing. It's amazing to be Italian. Whether you're an Italian American or, being a first generation American, Dawn, is what made me holistic.
That's so important. Yes, say that. Talk about that.
Food was medicine.
Yeah.
And, when I started working right away, I started working in psychiatric facilities. I was working with the most impaired kids, and I thought, what is going on? I mean, my first place I worked, they had children as young as 5 years old living in a residential center.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand that. I had never, you can be trained until you're actually there and you see what happens. It's really, really hard. And so when I started, doing more independent work and actually, becoming a licensed therapist, your toolkit is pretty small, and you get trained in a lot of theory, and you're kind of left on your own. And so I always, I didn't have mayonnaise until I was 13 years old. I mean, I didn't have these things. We ate a lot of really healthy, nutrient-dense food. I knew what it did for the brain and body. And so I started with those kind of foundational things. And you got to see change, right? And so now we just have so much research to substantiate the efficacy of things that have been labeled integrative or holistic, but it's just sound science, right? You miss vitamin D, and it's a hormone regulator of the body. So then you have mood issues, and then you replace your vitamin D and your mood changes. That's
so true. So true. I actually was deficient on vitamin D, probably because I live in Portland, Oregon, where there is no sun. And I hate that. I hate that there's no sun. And so I was deficient in vitamin D. And as soon as I started taking it, after I went to see my naturopath, everything changed.
Everything
so much happier. So I have a question for you. So you have a mission. What is your mission? Tell me that.
Yeah, my mission is to change the way we view and treat children's mental health. And, I am supporting therapists, both with this book and with APA-sponsored CE-based courses, because I have a company that can offer those, and then to support parents, because parents don't know that they absolutely 100% can reduce and even in some cases reverse their child's mental health. And they just need to know the steps to do that. They need to be empowered. And I'm showing parents how to do that.
Well, I'll tell you, so we actually found each other through an organization that you belong to, and called Mindshare, correct?
Yeah.
And it's just funny how this has all happened with the people that have come on the show or who have reached out to me that want to be on it. It is definitely a divine intervention, and the universe has, been sending me these amazing professionals and amazing people who have stories that are very similar to mine or maybe a little bit different. And so you actually found out about this through your organization or your connection with Mindshare,
Yeah.
and you saw a little bit of a blurb about what I was doing, right? Tell me what you thought when you saw that.
Yeah. So first of all, Mindshare is a group of wellness professionals run by JJ Virgin, who is a friend of mine, and I'm in a smaller group I'm in her mastermind with them, a group of about 50 just amazing heart-centered human beings. So we're all in wellness in different ways. And so everybody's vetted. You have to apply, like they really make sure that people are there mission driven. And so that's really exciting when you're in this field to be with other people that like are really trying to help change health, right?
Yes.
So when so somebody tagged me in the post because that's what happened. And I saw it and I thought, teeny, talking about suicide and the mental health of kids obviously is part of my mission, but, it is so dramatically on the rise. Both suicidal ideation and, actual, suicide deaths from suicide is startling. In a 10-year period from 2007 and 2017, we have had a 56% increase in suicides.
Between the ages of 10 to 24, right? Or
10 to 24, and that's from
wow.
the CDC. And, I can say that what I have seen in these almost 3 decades is that, there is a lot more crisis level mental health issues.
Yeah.
And people choose suicide when they feel hopeless. And I can tell you that parents feel hopeless and children feel hopeless. And every day people come into me and I wish I was always the first stop, but I am often the 20th or greater stop. And my record is I was the 55th person a young woman saw, 55th.
Wow.
That is not okay. I wish I could tell you that it was abnormal, but our mental health system is broken. And, I think one of the most startling statistics that really guides my work is that from the start of a mental health symptom in a child, on average, it takes them 11 years to get help.
I'm really glad that you said that because, in my situation and probably what motivated you to be a part of this is reading about the struggle that my son has had with mental health. And he's been in and out of treatment centers. He's seen, I don't even know how many therapists.
Yeah.
The first sign for him probably started, I would say, where I noticed something was just kind of off, but I didn't know what it was probably around 7 or 8. And it was from him as a result of him being very feminine. And obviously I knew he was gay much younger than that, but he hadn't come out yet. But he was being bullied from being so feminine. So all of this stuff kind of started at a really young age. Like it started at like first grade, second grade at the most. It probably even started sooner than that, but I didn't notice it until then.
You can only put the pieces together when you look back, right?
Right.
You know
It's so true.
So,
it's so true. And so I remember thinking like there were some kind of odd things that were going on, but you just, as a mom, you just think, oh yeah, that's normal. So you're right. It took about, a span of time from really, I would say the age of 6 to probably 11 before we finally thought something's not right here, and we got him into therapy. But we had gotten him into like a little bit of therapy in and out there, and it just wasn't, he didn't like it. It wasn't working.
Right.
So now when I think about, he's 26, from the age of 12, when he actually went into an actual residential behavioral treatment program in Utah. From that moment to 26, he's probably seen 30 therapists.
Yeah.
And he saw a bulk of them at the treatment center, and they quickly at 12 years old, you know, diagnosed him with all these things, right? Which
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how you feel about that. It felt like it was a lot of that stuff was being labeled super young, and I don't even know if half of it was even really
Yeah.
what's going on. What do you think
Well,
about that?
yeah, Dawn, what do I think about it? Well, I got some pretty damn strong opinions, sister.
Good, tell me.
And you know, my whole work, everything I do is evidence-based. I do not do anything that is not based on a lot of solid research. When you put yourself out there as a thought leader, and I am going to change, I am changing the way we view and treat children's mental health. We need science. And guess what? There is a boatload of science, and we are not using it. So our system is in crisis. You can look at research, you can do all that. The levels of autism are unbelievable. I mean, it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So let's look at what is science. Let's use that to guide what we're doing, okay? So
Okay.
right away, what is the problem? There's lots of problems systemically in mental health. And your son is an example of this. So number one, we don't check under the hood, okay? We're guessing. We are guessing. What is the clinical intake? It's based on that clinician's training and experience. That is it. And a diagnostic and statistical manual, which is heavily influenced by pharma. That's a whole other story. We don't need to go into that. So why do we use diagnostics? Now, I'm a trained school psychologist. I'm a neurofeedback provider. I do QEEGs. I'm going to talk about that. I love diagnosis. I love diagnosis because it's a point of psychoeducation. But when we try to cram people into a diagnostic category because that's the best one, that doesn't really help people either. So when we have amazing tools, I'm going to tell you about two things that are completely ignored that are evidence-based that could be helping millions of people in America. Awesome. Number one, doing lab work. So why is every person that comes to me, you know, you're getting blood work, right? All my peeps, when they're listening, they know it, right? I partner. I am not a physician. Yes, I am certified in integrative mental health, and I'm certified as a brain coach. I did all that training. But what you need to do is you need to check for physical things, just like what you experienced, Dawn. Get your nutrient levels tested. I don't think people understand. And one of the things I will be doing is training therapists on this because they don't know. And they come to me all the time. I've done a lot of training and supervision. And they're like, Dr. Rowe, how do you know this? And I'm like, well, you know, I just study. Like, there isn't a day, 7 days a week, that I don't study about mental health. Wow. It's just what it is, right? And it's because I love it and I'm a nerd. And I've done a lot of neurofeedback so I can do things really process quick. I need a lot of stuff. I need a lot of info. But we need to look at it and understand what those nutrients, if you are low in certain nutrients, your brain and body, your nervous system cannot work properly, and you will have neurological effects. You will have, you know, cognitive and psychological effects. It is a known thing. So let's not just talk about mind, body, and spirit. Let's actually put some evidence and some science behind it and do it. Number one. Number two, I do something called QEEG brain map. This is evidence-based. It's been around for decades. You cannot work with me unless you get a brain map. And what is this brain map? It is a way to see the health of the brain. Somebody comes in, they put a cap on, and it measures the surface electrical activity of the brain. We know exactly what the brain does. We don't have to guess, oh, is this ADHD or is this anxiety disorder? You look at that cue, you can tell this area is working, that area is not.
Wow.
Answer, end of story, done. Now you have to have, obviously I'm super high level trained and there's a limited amount of people, but there are people all over the world that do this. So this is not something that is, you know, necessarily hard to find. You might have to travel within your state, but it is really pretty unbelievable. And with those two things, when you start with knowing what is wrong, guess what? You can take steps and actions and turn that around. When we keep, common scenario, Dawn, people come to me every day and they're like, I'm bringing my kids to you, they have ADD, okay? Everybody thinks they have ADD. You're in perimenopause. You're like, oh, I think I have ADD. And I'm like, did you have it when you were in high school? No, I was like a straight A student. And no, you don't have ADD. It doesn't just develop because your hormones are down. So it's called perimenopause. That's a physical.
It sure is. And I know it well.
I do PMS and a lot of biofeedback for that. So I'm pretty good.
Wow.
But so when they come in and I do a brain map, it's pretty easy to see, ADD, FDA approved. You don't even need to do a Q. You can actually just measure the brain waves, and you could do a fast to slow wave ratio just to make it in layman's term. And you could diagnose somebody FDA approved just on the measuring of these two brain waves and doing a comparative
Okay,
analysis.
let me ask you something. Why are more people not doing this? Why are clinicians? Is it in Portland? Because I need to get my son over there.
Portland. Yes, and I'm going to tell you can find a provider on bcia.org. bcia.org. Why are you going to go there? They're certified.
Okay. I'm going to put that in the podcast notes as well.
Please do. And I love those people. And so I'm not going to get into conspiracy theory with you. I'm just going to tell you the straight facts. Okay. Great. Our mental health system is dictated by pharma. Okay. And just for people to understand this, that there is not one physician program in the United States that does not receive money from pharma. That is a conflict of interest. So that is a problem. The other problem is it's a lack of understanding. We are ignoring neuroscience. We are not taking what we absolutely know about the brain and using it to guide every aspect of mental health treatment. That's what I do. That's why people get better, because I use science.
Yes. So you're saying that you could bring someone in. So for example, if I had thought, okay, something's really not right with Cole at 7 years old, something's off. I could bring him in at that age.
Yeah.
You would do the lab work.
I would partner with somebody who does lab work.
Right.
I'm a physician. I want to make sure I'm in my scope.
Right.
Do a QEG, and guess what? You do a clinical intake with me. And this is where the seasoned clinician comes in. And all the therapists who are listening, they understand, they know this, right? So you take that information, like with a QEG, in the case of the ADD, and somebody comes in, there's a million reasons why you have an attention problem. It doesn't mean it's ADD. And if it's ADD, we'll get an answer, right? A lot of times it's anxiety. It's often anxiety before it's ADD. If you're having looping thoughts and you're worried all the time, you can't pay attention.
Exactly.
So that's where the clinical intake also comes in. But there's a lot of changes that are happening. I mean, obviously Lyme disease, pandas. I mean, these are infectious disease. I mean, 1 in 2 children have a physical or mental health problem in the United States. There's a lot of physical problems driving mental health. The QEG gives us indicators. I've been doing this a really long time. I can tell when somebody, for example, has gut flora problems on a brain map. And then I send them to the doctor and they get the poop testing and we figure it out. And then you do treatment, and why is gut flora important in mental health? Because there's a link between your brain and your gut, and your gut has this almost same electrical activity as in the brain. So why isn't every therapist doing this? So there's a lack of understanding. There's a lack of training. This is hard training. To learn how to do this is very hard. There's not a lot of people out there who actually interpret their own brain maps. Clinicians, people will administer it and they send it off to an agency to get assessed. That's okay. Don't feel bad about that. Okay. This is why people fly to me, because I do it and I can do it in 30 seconds.
Wow.
So it's just there. And when you do thousands of something, anybody who, whatever you're in your career, you get it. You know exactly what you're doing.
So now if you were to, so say you do all of this work with someone, then you can automatically look from the results of the labs and the results of the test.
Yep.
You can
and clinical history.
And clinical history. Yep.
You can't ignore that. There's a lot of factors. We got to rule out trauma, other things that have happened that could be contributing factors.
Okay. And then you would recommend at that point, you would put together kind of a protocol, right? Like,
Yeah.
here's what we think you should, and some of it could actually include or does include some holistic approach and
All my
medicine
plans
and all of
are
that.
integrative.
Okay.
In terms of psychiatric medication, it is absolutely overused, and we are ignoring science, and we are using off-label. I only use evidence-based approaches, and there's not a lot of research to substantiate the efficacy of psychiatric medication in a lot of psychiatric conditions related to children. And if we're really looking at that, the research says that anywhere between 60 to 70% of all mental health problems are either caused by or exacerbated by an underlying medical problem. Well, let's start there, people.
Yeah.
and let's save it. Now, I don't want to diminish how important psychotherapy is. I just have a really different viewpoint about psychotherapy. So psychotherapy is teaching and learning. Okay.
Yes.
And in order for it to work, again, let's use the science. You cannot access your frontal lobes if your nervous system is hyperactive or in an activated state. Okay. So when we try to work with people who are feeling agitated, that their nervous system is in overdrive, as I like to call, your limbic system is on fire, whatever it is, this is what everybody is coming into me like. I mean, I don't have people who don't have an overactivated nervous system. You are not able to access rational thought.
No.
Okay. What are most therapists doing? Cognitive behavioral and DBT. This is not. So when you say your son went from therapist to therapist to therapist.
Yeah, he did DBT.
Yeah, of course he did. Now DBT will work great, and so will CBT when your nervous system isn't as activated, because you can process, you can access. So it's the pairing of, we use neurofeedback and biofeedback and PMF and other things too, somatic experiencing and EFT tapping. We regulate the nervous system. We come in with psychotherapy. That's what is so amazing and why people really improve. And that therapy is teaching, it's learning, it's so important. And also people need to realize it's not a magic bullet. You're gonna be uncomfortable in it. It's a commitment, and there are amazing therapists all over the world to be able to help you do that. And therapists, they've been indoctrinated that it has to be psychiatric medication. What is happening is they're realizing, Dawn, that it's not working. And these kids are winding up in ERs and psychiatric hospitals, and then they're going from one to the next to the next. And so they're starting to find out about neurofeedback and biofeedback, and they're like, holy moly, neurofeedback, tens of thousands of research studies, 3,000 peer reviewed. Why didn't I learn about this in grad school?
Yeah, this is such an important podcast because obviously from personal experience, and we're going through this right now where Cole he actually has a really great therapist we've been doing telehealth therapy together, family therapy. She's great. Yes, but it's taken forever to find someone. But she is starting to do EMDR with him.
Great.
Because he has a lot of trauma.
And
of course he does. And I, ironically, I'm doing EMDR right now.
You have trauma too. You went through what?
Yes.
What you went through, Dawn, is hell.
I know. It's interesting because the last meeting that we had, we were she was talking to me about different things to kind of work on because there's so many things. And things for me from my childhood are very similar to how I feel about my son. So my number one thing is not feeling safe, because there were so many times as a child I didn't feel safe.
Right.
And I didn't feel safe with my son when things were out of control, and I knew he wasn't safe. I was trying to keep him safe, but he wasn't safe. And all of these things are, and so my shit right now is in that space, and it's big, right?
Listen,
and
he triggered your shit.
He triggered my shit. Well, he's actually the one that said, Mom, you need to go see, I know you've been doing years of therapy, but it's not working. You need to go see an EMDR person. He knew about it before I even did.
He knows. And you know, when
Yeah.
you're so dysregulated and you get a moment of regulation, oh God, you have so many aha moments, right?
I know.
And you know, what do we want for our kids? Like, I'm a mom of special needs kids, and my older one has PANS, so I understand distress. Let me tell you, sister. And that is not why I got into this field. I already was doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Decades before I had kids. So, and I feel privileged to be the mother of these kids because, you know, the Lord above said, you can handle this, bro. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's exactly what I say.
And we get it done. So, and so, you know, when your kid is suffering, there is nothing worse. I mean,
No.
I am sorry. There is nothing worse. And to see kids struggling with feelings of wanting to harm themselves or harm others, you feel even more hopeless because nobody wants to help you. Like, you can't even find people to help you. And, you know, that, and, you know, I have lots of feelings about that. We work with people whose kids are in distress, and people are like, why would you do that? Why would I do that?
Yeah.
I know how to help these people. And if they listen, you know, and they follow through, I'm always like, listen, this is what it is. I don't got a magic wand. We have to give up that there's a magic wand, that there's a pill and something's going to fix it overnight. It didn't happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. But if you stick with it and you find solid providers and you use science, right? Absolutely, you can start unwinding this. The brain is so resilient. So resilient. I mean, I have 80-year-old people coming to me. I mean, it's amazing.
Is that
what
right?
you can do. Yeah. I mean, and there's pieces, right? So there's so much that can be done by a parent, but we have to teach people. We have to, our therapists are at the front line, and they are the ones, that's why I'm doing this. If I'm changing mental health, I'm reaching the parents. They get it. They're in pain, right? But we have to help them. It is not okay that we don't have a better system in place to catch these kids earlier and to teach parents. They want to know. They want to know, and they can do it.
We do.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this because this is really important because, you know, so when you said get labs, I mean, all of a sudden I was just like, oh my gosh. So I got him over to a naturopath.
Yep.
And she did a 30-minute meeting with him, and then she booked him out for 3 weeks to do the labs. And I was like, what? And then so I'm frustrated because he's in somewhat of a crisis right now because he's been out of the treatment center for about 3 months. He's doing really well. He's clean and sober for the moment. And you know, who knows what's going to happen, but he's super depressed, right? And so his therapist is saying, you know, I think he needs to get on some medication. And he was on medication. He was on like Lexapro or something when he was in the treatment center, but he was acting kind of wacko. And I was like, I don't know if this is right for you, Cole. I don't know if you should be on this. I don't know. And so of course he listened to me. And so he stopped taking it. And I was like, well, I didn't say to stop taking it, but let's find a backup plan. Right. So then we got him to the naturopath. Yeah. And she hasn't done the labs yet. I know his vitamin B is probably off the charts deficient because that's so connected to addiction, correct?
Well, yes, but do you know if he has a genetic mutation, MTHFR?
I don't even know what that is.
Aha. So, well, and I just want everybody to know, I tell every parent it's going to be okay. Right. And so I have a book coming out in the winter. It's called It's Gonna Be Okay. And it's going to walk you through
I love it.
all of these things. We have a course too called the Unstuck program that will be coming out in the fall. But I want to share with people, not everybody can fly into me. And I work with people over 2 weeks. We do a program called 360 Reboot. Not everybody can afford it. It's expensive. You know what I mean? And I know that what I'm doing, I want people to do this, and you could do most of it on your own. By the course or the book, and if you feel like you need more, we have coaching calls. But so there's lots of ways around it. So I just want to say that. And I'm only mentioning it because I break everything down. I give you all the research. I have 35 pages of citations of research, just in case somebody ever says, well, there's no research behind vitamin D. You can say, well, let me open this up in Dr. Roseann's book, because she's got about 12 citations about that. So, because when you are in this journey, you are the CEO of your child's mental and physical health.
Yeah.
End of story. If you happen to find a Dr. Rowe where you live, God bless, right? Don't ask me, don't call me and find a provider that's like me. I don't know of another provider that's like me. I just don't. And I didn't know. It's so funny. You do your work and then it's a long story, but you know, I've always treated very well-known people, but not necessarily in the kind of celebrity you would necessarily know. And, you know, I had somebody who was a billionaire who was like, do you know that literally nobody else in the United States is doing this? And that's why we're here. And I was like, no. And they're super friendly and stuff. And they were like, yeah.
Really?
And yeah. And then this was a few years ago. And then I was like, I have to teach people this. I have to do this because, you know, we have lots of data and research. You know, our people get better. 91% of our clients get significantly better. 90. Is
that right? So you think it's a lot of it is vitamin D, vitamin B, like
it's multi-part. So
yeah.
It's not one thing. And that's what it's going to be okay in the Unstuck program about. It's the foundational. There are pillars of health. This is not rocket science, people. This is science, right? So, you know, it's what you eat. It's how you sleep. But genetics are a huge thing. So we know when you said addiction and vitamin B, well, what's the underlying? What's the root cause of that? This is what we're not talking about, right? So the root cause of it is, I'm going to tell you, Dawn, there's probably no way your kid does not have this mutation. It's called MTHFR. Everybody Google it. Get out your phone and Google it.
M like Mary.
Yeah, if you're driving, don't wait and see in the show notes. But because I do that all the time. I'm like pause and then I dictate it to myself. I'm a big listener of podcasts. So NTHFR is a genetic mutation, just like really simplified. You lack an ability to properly utilize the B vitamins, and there's 9 of them. And the B vitamins are essential for your nervous system to work. And the 2 biggest impacts are B12, which without proper B12, you're going to have neurocognitive and psychiatric problems. It's just going to happen. And you can have a lot of other things. And the other major one is folate. And without folate, you can't properly detoxify. Why is this so significant? Because for this grouping, and about 50% of the US population has this mutation.
Wow.
And they believe, we don't have research, but they believe, Dr. Eamon says like 70 to 80% of mental health patients have this. So because of this mutation, when you take a psychiatric medication, and this is well known in psychiatrics, in 2014 or 15, the Journal of American Psychiatry, JAMA, said that psychiatrists should be using lab work to look at these mutations. There are other ones, the most common ones, before they prescribe psychiatric medication. It is rarely done, and you typically have to go to an integrative provider. So when you have this mutation, your body cannot properly, metabolize these medications. On top of it, the medications build up in the system. And if you have the folate, if you're struggling with folate, you actually cannot detoxify. So that's often why, and I think people are going to have a huge aha moment if you're listening, if you had a child or yourself and you've tried a psychiatric medication and then they tend to work, and then all of a sudden, not only do they stop working, you have bad side effects. It's often because of this mutation and then the toxic effect of that medication. The third reason is substantiated by a lot of research, is that many of these SSRIs kill off your gut flora.
Yes.
And when you kill off your gut flora, because of the bidirectional influence of the gut to the brain, back and forth, you're going to have problems. So there's a lot behind it. Am I 100% opposed to medication? Absolutely not. But we should be looking at evidence-based approaches. We should be doing a way more thorough job diagnostically and medically treating people before we ever get to medication.
So how do you, okay, so how do people get tested for that? At their
Yeah. Oh,
naturopath
you
or
can
where?
go, your psychiatrist should be able to test you, a naturopath, a
Okay.
functional doctor. Naturopaths are not licensed in every state. A lot of chiropractors do this.
Oh, wow.
Oh yeah, you can order it yourself. Just Google this testing on your own. Um, Former 23andMe. There's all kinds. Genemine. I mean, there's so much testing. If you looked up MTHFR home testing, just be careful in what you order that you find out. Put in anonymous when you type it, when you Google it. So so that you get it anonymous and that your information, your health information is protected. But this is a common test. It's just that your regular physician, your pediatrician, is not going to know anything about this.
Oh my God, that's so frustrating to me. That is
Yes,
so frustrating.
50% of the U.S. population has this.
So
And
he
it causes,
probably does.
yes,
It's caused by what?
it, I mean, 50% of this youth population has this, and it's not just linked to mental health. It's linked to autoimmune. It's linked to stroke, heart attack, miscarriages. It's just a lot of things. Your body can't work without the B vitamins.
So you could do this test
Yeah.
or have this test done.
Yeah. And you want to have your B levels checked too. Like
Okay.
you can get your testing done and then get your B levels checked. Whatever. If you're working with a provider, say, hey, run my B12 and B6 and folate at least, and then see what's going on.
And then what is it usually? Is it a blood test or is it a saliva?
It's typically a blood test. There are some saliva tests available depending on where you get your testing from. And then what happens is if you have this mutation, there's actually a relatively easy and somewhat inexpensive fix. You get a bioavailable version of these B vitamins and your body can absorb them. Now,
okay.
yeah. And if you really have problems with detoxification in your system, you may need a different protocol. You start adding in other detox things, and there's lots of lifestyle things to do, like making sure you walk, like you have to break a sweat for 10 minutes, and a sauna, and lots of water with lemon, and there's lots of ways to support it. Epstein, salt baths and things like that. Which
I might need to take this test.
Oh, girl. I
mean,
have a mutation. It's very common.
But it really does. A lot of the things you said make so much sense to some health things that I've had. And I bet people that are listening right now are probably like, they're having the aha moment too.
They should be. And just so people know, what will happen is in a family tree. So again, it can just appear. So your parents don't have to have it. But now we're really starting to see the family tree. So you can have like bipolar, autism, heart disease, and then the connector is the MTHFR. So when people say like, oh, I had no history of this, like sometimes it's true. We know, who doesn't have a mental health history in their family? Let's face it, people come in embarrassed all the time. And I'm like, I don't know why you're embarrassed. Like, I don't know anybody who doesn't have anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully we're moving to making mental health not such a stigma. And I think during this time of COVID, people are so stressed.
They're so stressed out. And you know what? That's one of the main motivators for me to do this whole thing. And then when the wildfires, we're dealing with in Oregon came, I do a lot of yoga, a lot of meditation. I'm tapping. I'm in EMDR, and I've still been struggling, although the tapping really has helped me tremendously, I have to say.
I'm such a big fan of tapping.
It's huge. And for people who don't know what it is, I know that, like, let's talk about it just for a minute. I had a whole podcast that was just released yesterday, actually, by this gal who is phenomenal. Oh my gosh, I think the two of you would love each other. Her name is Amy Stark, and her company is called Stark Transformation. I think she's in Mindshare too, actually.
I'll have to check her out.
I think she is, yeah. So she's an energy healer and a psychic. And so she works with people's higher self and their spirit, their spiritual connection, their energy. And then she can tell you exactly like, this is kind of what I think we need to tap on, and here's why. And then it's almost always exactly what the person has been struggling with, because we did a live tapping. We did an audio. It hasn't
Yeah,
been released yet, but we did an audio visual tapping that we're going to put on YouTube.
love it.
And I lost my shit. I mean, obviously
Tapping is some powerful stuff, sister.
it was powerful, but she has good videos. There's a lot of good videos out there, but
So much.
and you
Tapping.
incorporate it right into
Yeah.
your,
Yeah. So I've actually been doing tapping for, at this point, I think it's about 17 years.
oh my
So
gosh.
before it got popular, oh, I'm a trailblazer, sister. What happened
You are.
is people came in. I mean, Jordan, people came in like you, and they brought in these kids, and nobody was getting better. And I was like, I'm just gonna, hop in the library and look in the microfiche, for Christ's sake. It was that long ago. It was in the 90s. And I'm gonna find it. You know what I mean? And then, and then you search, and you don't have to search that hard to find evidence-based approaches. But somebody taught me it, and I was like, what is this tapping? And I did it. And I'm one of those people, what is tapping? Tapping is it's a technique that combines both tapping along meridians that are based on, Eastern principles, that we have certain meridians that change the energy flows, right? And this is not hogwash. This is acupressure. This is all very evidence-based.
Yes.
And then you're using statements that are cognitive behavioral, and you're pairing them together. And what happens is, when you tap along this meridian, the science behind it is you're regulating the nervous system. And then you're breaking the looping thoughts. And so it's great for stress. It's great for trauma. There's a lot of research behind it. Our whole staff is EFT trained. We have somebody who's level 3 who's about to get to trainer level. We are going to be doing trainings for therapists. We've always done trainings for therapists, but we're able to now offer continuing education credits. But what I love about tapping, and I'm going to be honest, I tap pretty much every day, because my number one petty annoyance is one thing: all you people driving in the passing lane. So I'm so chill, and then I get in the car, and I'm like, there's nobody in all 3 of these lanes, and you got to be driving 63. Come on, people.
Yeah.
Anyway,
And so you're tapping in the car.
tap in the car. Sometimes I drive, and I'm like, if anybody can see, there's these different points. There's these 9 points. And here's the thing about tapping. It doesn't matter if it's breath work, if it's PMF, it's neurofeedback, biofeedback. You got to do something, and you got to do it every day for at least 10 minutes. You got to get that nervous system regulated. I can't say this more importantly. So yeah, I love my massage. I go every other week. It's not enough. You have to take 10 minutes. I don't care where that 10 minutes is. If you have to lock yourself in the bathroom, maybe that's the worst place, because everybody seems to come in there, including your cats and dogs. A closet, wherever it has to be. You sit in your car. You pretend you're not home, and you sit outside. I do that all the time. But you have to get your nervous system.
You have to regulate it. And what's funny is, so these wildfires kind of caught me off guard in terms of my anxiety. And the part that I have been struggling with, because it's still going on, is that I can't open my freaking windows. I can't go outside to really walk my dog or do anything, because the smoke is so thick. And I started to feel the anxiety coming on, and then I felt like I couldn't really take deep breaths in, and it was just, everything was really jacked up for a few days, and I kind of lost it, like over the weekend.
Power was taken to it.
That's what it is. And over the weekend, I lost my mind on my husband, and he was like, whoa, what is happening? And it kind of took over, right?
But listen, Dawn, you got to also love yourself and forgive yourself for that.
Yeah,
It's really okay.
I know. It's
this
okay.
Is like a bizarre time in the world as it is. And then you have, you love your kids, and he's doing better, but you're also worried. It's okay to have emotional breakdowns. It is okay. You can't live there.
Thank you for saying that.
But you're a tough chick. I mean, I'm a tough chick, right? And I'm an Aquarian, and I have a Cancer rising. So Aquarian,
I'm a Scorpio. So Oh, that says a lot. That
And a
explains a
Virgo.
lot.
I'm a Virgo. I'm very in there too. So I'm very organized, crazy organized. But you know, I'm very logical and I'm a scientist, right? But then I have this big heart and the cancer rises, and anybody who knows what I'm talking about, because a lot of our therapists are cancers. You know, I love to get a good cry in. Like I cry over happy stuff all the time. Like our admin, she had a grandbaby born today, and as soon as I saw her, I started bawling my eyes out. I mean, you know, the birth of a baby is a miracle. You know what I mean? And so we think it's not okay to cry because we think we have to be super strong. It is okay to cry. If you're crying every day and you're really feeling stuck, you got to go to a licensed mental health provider. I mean, you just do. So I'm still saying take care of yourself every day, but they're there to help you. They got the magic juju. They do, you know what I mean? And they can help you. You know, when we talk about your son, you know, there's a complexity to it, right? The world in itself right now is grieving, and I hope people do. I see people really trying to hold on, you know, get help. You know, it's a lot going on in the world right now.
It's so important that you said that. And then what you hear is people say, well, but I have to do it over telehealth and it's so hard, but it's actually not. I mean,
no,
I'm looking at you right now and I can feel, you know, you can feel that connection
100%
and that energy and, you know, and doing the tapping. I mean, just to finalize that conversation, that thought we were talking about is that I lost my shit. I was crying. My husband didn't understand. And then I was mad at him for not understanding. And then I reached out to two girlfriends because that's, you know, what I do when I'm, but I'm like, okay, husband doesn't understand right now. So I'm going to the girls. So I reach out and one of my girlfriends was like, Dawn, why aren't you tapping? And I was like, shit, I don't know.
Like, duh, you know.
Why am I not tapping?
I know.
So, literally, I'm not kidding when I say this to you. I started tapping and within minutes, because it's so fast.
5 minutes to better mental health tapping.
I
so
was
fast.
like, I am so happy now. And I want to stay married to my husband.
It's pretty he's a good guy, but it's pretty powerful. I mean, it really is. It's been one of these things, and you know, you can do it like on kids, like you can tap on them on certain points, and you know, it's really, really effective and quick, and you don't need money for it, and you don't need anything. Because I also want to talk about barriers to mental health and, you know, accessibility, you know, to get, you know, having finances, these, you know, to do these things. And so I'm not saying to not find a provider, because there's also agencies and you can talk to your town social services. I mean, there's just lots of ways to get mental health, and thankfully telehealth is going to break barriers. And I really hope we get a national certification for therapists, because that needs to happen. But you know, these tools, they work when you use them.
Yeah, you have to use them. And you have to be consistent. And everything integrates together, right? Which is why it's called integrative wellness. You know, you've got the blood testing, you've got the QE. What do you say again? How do you say that?
QEEG. You got it. Just say call it a brain map. Call it a brain map.
Brain map. So before we go, I want to ask you, just give me a quick like rundown between what the difference is between neurofeedback and biofeedback.
Sure, I'd love to talk about it. So both of them help to regulate the nervous system, and they're cousins. They're definitely different. So biofeedback is conscious control of what we call one of your autonomic functions. So it's conscious control of your breath, your heart rate, your temperature, and your skin conductance. When we conscientiously practice on managing some of those things, for example, your body temperature, I could walk you through and help you to raise your body temperature in your hand in just a few minutes. And we know when we do that, you get an increase in this beautiful, happy brainwave called alpha. It's the same brainwave that comes out when you do drugs, and a lot of addicts crave that because they're low in it. So you're not going to act like you're on drugs. You're just going to feel good, and it helps to lower those stress levels.
With your hand?
We start with our hand, and you just concentrate on your hand, and you literally say, make your hand hot, make your hand hot, close it up. It's easier if you close it up.
I close it. Okay.
And you just look at it and you just say, okay, like you can even put it down and relax it and say like, my hand is going to get hot. You can say it out. I like to say things out loud.
Oh, I like it. Okay. So I have
Yeah.
my hand closed right now in a
Yeah.
fist, and I'm
And then
saying,
just concentrate on it and be like, wow, my hand's really getting hot. I can really feel it. It's getting hot. And then, and you just keep do that. You spend a few minutes doing that. Your hand will get hotter and you will notice you feel calmer, because when you raise your body temperature, that alpha increases. So it's doing those kind of things. I mean,
love it.
therapists can take a few minutes. Like I
Yeah.
would make my anxious clients just sit with me for a few minutes, and we would actually use temperature dots where the color would change. You could buy like $10, you could buy like 1,000 of
Yes.
them on Amazon, and you put them on there just for people to, kids are visual, adults are visual, and it just gives you that control. And then neurofeedback, you are working at the subconscious level, because part of why cognitive behavioral and DBT doesn't work is we're trying to come into conscious state. Okay. And we are only in conscious awareness. It doesn't even matter how smart you are, right? We're only in conscious awareness 5 to 0.05% of the time.
Really?
The rest of the time, the subconscious is running the show. So like if anybody took Psych 101, you remember the poster of the iceberg, and they say the tip of the iceberg, so you see the iceberg sticking out. Well, the iceberg is really big below the water. That's your subconscious. So the subconscious, that's why neurofeedback is like, it's the bee's knees. I mean, it is like, I wish it was at the gas station. So you fill up and you get a little neurofeedback. Everybody would be so nice.
So is that part of like EMDR and all of that?
No. So
Okay.
EMDR works in a different way, but what neurofeedback is you're using technology. Nothing comes through the wires. Most people, like I do QEG. So you have a QEG, you know what area is working, not. You reinforce certain areas of the brain that are not working properly. They may be overactive or underactive. I'm making it real simple. You reinforce it. What does that mean? That person's hooked up in my office. They watch a movie. The movie won't play. They don't get dings. Bars don't move points. The subconscious, when you come in, you're hooked up. Your brain, in 2 to 3 seconds from the first time you're hooked up, will automatically start producing the healthy combination of brain waves to get this darn movie to play and get all these points. Your subconscious starts changing, and that creates new electrical activity in the brain. And that electrical activity changes the brain waves. So this is just like working out. You can't go one time. You can't go to your bar class for an hour and 15 minutes and think you're going to lose 20 pounds and be a size 2. You got to do it for, you got to do it for time. It's a minimum of 20 sessions. Most people are doing 40 sessions because you have to do it. Now, the way neurofeedback works, it's integrative. You need to make lifestyle changes. You can't be eating Cheetos and thinking your brain's going to be working at optimal. I'm not saying you never have Cheetos, but you really want to have nutrient-dense food. You want to reduce some stressors. You want to adopt some changes. You want to really give it the what it deserves to make it work.
Absolutely.
But it's highly effective, and it's super pleasant. It's really easy, and boy, does it work. I mean, people said to me, how did you write 4 books in 4 months? And still do. I didn't go through all the other things I did. But the reason why I did, well, obviously I'm not a dummy, but I've done hundreds of sessions of neurofeedback. I've done a lot of PMF, and I eat paleo, and I have a lot of gratitude in my heart. I, always pray every day. I, really try to surround myself with amazing human beings, which are my mind share peeps in particular, like fill my cup. And I love what I do. You know what I mean?
Wow.
You can call me, I'll still be doing this when I'm 70, So I think the neurofeedback is a way to really change the way the brain is working. It's evidence-based. EMDR, all of those things, they work in a different way. EMDR, they're not 100% sure why it works, but what we think how it works is it changes the blood flow of the frontal lobes. So it starts calming the frontal lobes, which in a brain map, I can see what's happening over the structure, but I actually can see what's happening to the brain when it's talking to itself. So you can see the lines of communication. That's pretty crazy. So when somebody has PTSD or they have high levels of anxiety, OCD, what do you think you're going to see in the brain? You see all this inner chitter chatter. You see these hyperconnective activities.
Sure.
So when you do EFT, EMDR, neurofeedback, you calm the inner chatter, right?
Oh,
So lots of good stuff. And hopefully people realize, and you can go to bcia.org to find a certified neurofeedback or biofeedback provider or somebody who can do a QEEG. There are lots of options. And I certainly love functional MDs and naturopaths and chiropractors that specialize in these things.
I want to come to you.
Yeah. we have a darn good time when people.
I want to come to you for all of this, and I just want to make some pasta with you. How much fun would that be?
Oh, and we make gluten-free pasta in my house.
We do. We've done it too. Yeah. And my meat sauce. Let's do a meat sauce competition.
And I love that you call it sauce, but not gravy.
No, I don't call it gravy. Do you call it gravy?
Heck no, it's
sauce. I was going to say,
man.
Why? But East Coasters do say that, don't they?
They do. I mean,
okay, what's wrong with them?
What's wrong with them? You call it whatever you want. It's darn good stuff. We're only kidding around. I don't want to get any hate mail.
We call it in our family. We call like the red sauce. We call marinade. We just call it marinade.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, I speak Italian. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
You do? Oh my gosh.
My parents are off the boat. They're from Italy. Like literally, we're the only ones here.
Oh, I can't even believe it.
My family's in Italy, so.
Well, we got it. I have to figure out a way to come and see you and meet you.
When COVID's over, you come. We'll do a little neurofeedback and stuff. It's a good time.
And we'll have some. And my uncle is a olive oil farmer. He has all these. I'm going to send you some olive oil, actually.
Hey. Yeah, and then I got the homemade wine, and it's good homemade wine.
I wish you could send that to me.
Yeah, you know what? I will.
I'll send you some olive oil, and you taste it. And
deal.
This would be amazing if we could do this. All right, I know we both have to run, but listen, I want to make sure that everybody knows how to get a hold of you. Your website is what?
Yeah, so I have 2 websites, but we're really migrating over to childrensmentalhealth.com. But you can also find me at drroseann.com, and I am just about to launch my YouTube, which will be Dr. Ro on YouTube is what it is going to be. And you'll be able to see me there every 2 days a week. I'll be on. And if anybody has any topics they want me to cover, hopefully they're going to drop it in the chat, because I got lots of information in here. So and follow me on social.
Yeah, and where are you at, like on Instagram and all that?
So I think I'm a Dr. Roseann Capana Hodge. If you get onto my website, Dr. Roseann Capana Hodge, Dr. Roseann, you can just click on it. We're changing everything, and I swear it will be coordinated, but we're trying to make every login exactly the same. But I think it's Dr. Roseann Capana Hodge. Just Google Dr. Roseann. You could be in Africa and it will come up. My name is so optimized.
And it's Roseann without the E on the end.
ROSEANN.
Yeah, but not ANNE. That is not it.
No.
Okay, I want to make sure I said that. My gosh, there's so many wonderful things. I'm excited about your book. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, and congratulations on this wonderful podcast. This is definitely an area where people need information, and there's really nowhere for people to go, both parents and professionals.
No.
I'm all about, that's why I tell everybody it's going to be okay. And don't be using that because I trademarked it. No,
I won't use it.
Not you, I meant everybody else.
Oh, okay.
But you can tell everybody that. You can say Dr. Rowe always says that. And I say that because, it's scary, and we feel alone and helpless. And I think information is so important.
It's so powerful. It just gives everybody so much power. And, you, first of all, you're just lovely. I mean, I just have enjoyed this. I have enjoyed this so much. I wish we had more time. I'm going to have you come back.
Yeah. Oh, I would love to come back.
And you're such an overachiever. And I feel like
I didn't mean to be an overachiever. It just sort of happened.
I understand that. Because I am as well. And so what I think is that you should launch a podcast.
I have a podcast.
Oh my God.
It's called the Parent Coffee Talk. It's with my buddy, Dr. Cleopatra, and we'll have you on. We shot it during COVID. It's going to launch in a couple of weeks. But you're right. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay, so there's nothing left.
I'm waiting for the talk show. I'm waiting for like NBC or Rachel Ray because yeah,
Yes.
I'm
Yes,
waiting
that's
for it.
what you need. You
I
definitely
need
need that.
it. I need it. And
And
then I really can change mental health. I really
well, you
that's what the media is about. And I'm really grateful
absolutely.
because I have so many friends that are reporters now. They're so great. So you know, this is important. People are hurting and children mental health is in an absolute crisis state.
It
And
is.
we have to these are our most precious commodity. I'm not saying adults aren't important, but this is really serious. If they're suffering walking into the world like this, what is it going to be in 20 years?
I know. And I just honestly, all kidding aside, I just want to say I really I feel so blessed and honored to have you here
Well,
because
that is so darn nice.
I mean, really, you have added so much in this hour for me personally that I'm thinking about things in a different way too.
I'm so glad. And that's what I want people to do. And remember, you know, you are the CEO. So listen and check in with yourself. Because I
Yes.
think we don't check in and we're letting people guide us. Like,
Yes.
why do you try the 8th psychiatric medication when your kid had psychosis from the other 3? Why?
Yeah.
There's got to be another way. And there is.
I'm just so excited. Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
on the show.
And
You're awesome.
well, I appreciate it. And I just, you know, anybody who's suffering, like there is hope and, you know, there is a way and you start small and start changing that. And the first thing I would do is change diet.
Yeah. Oh, that's so important.
First thing. And then add breath work in. Start simple.
Oh
Just
my
do it
gosh.
every day.
Well, I'm going to go buy your book. I'm going to follow your podcast. Now
Yes.
I'm going to stalk you now. Now I'm obsessed
I
with
love it. Let's be friends.
Well, we already have. So
Yeah.
anyway, Dr. Roseann, thank you so much. It just was such an honor and a blessing to have you on the show. You're the best.
Oh, thank you.